3 years ago, I had the opportunity to work with Sanlida Archery and ArcheryHQ based in Sydney to showcase their bows. Unfortunately, the COVID pandemic effectively knocked me out of the sport, a setback that I haven't fully recovered from. I still have a backlog of products to review, which I will slowly get around to spotlighting. I'm going to start at the bottom. This is the Tangzong, the cheapest bow in the Sanlida lineup and probably something you won't find easily. This is most commonly found on online sites like AliExpress or perhaps in local retailers who are Sanlida distributors, and is sold under both the Sanlida and Jandao brand names. Sanlida is known to provide equivalent quality bows for a lower price point, and this is true even for the beginner club level bows. The Tangzong kit, which includes a sight, comes in at around $150, which is cheaper than many club level wooden recurve bows. The riser is magnesium and the limbs are wood. It is intended to be a full-size target bow at 66 or 68 inches. The riser comes in several different colors, this one being the charcoal black. The riser has the standard screw holes for a sight, plunger and stabilizer. There are no adjustment options for the limbs or anything else. The riser alone is very light, being under 980 grams. The limbs are attached with thumb screws, and it is important to note that the riser is not IOF compatible. The bow is typically bought standalone and comes with an arrow rest and string. My items were kind of mixed up over the past few years in storage, so I used my own rest, and I don't remember if the sight came with the bow, but you can typically bundle in a sight when buying this bow. Now, all up, the bow is very light with a thin profile. Now, I'm used to target bows with a bit more weight to them, which is more desirable for target shooting, but light bows have an appeal when being used by someone very new to archery. I don't foresee this bow as something that will be used for a long time and upgrade it with better accessories, but the low price, lightweight and simple design can be a good starter or club level bow. Now, I've taken the Tangzong out to the range to see what I can do. Unfortunately, my setup is fairly horrible. My arrows don't match the draw weight and I have clearance issues that cause the rest to come off, but this is more a fault of my lack of tuning than the bow itself. I also misjudged the height to attach my sight, so I have no setting for close distance. Nonetheless, I can shoot a grouping with it, so the bow works with no surprises. At this point, I just want to clear each distance without caring too much about how precise the groupings were. The highlight was pushing the target out to the full 70-meter distance. I haven't shot the full distance for over 3 years, so this was a bit of a Hail Mary shot, and I was very satisfied to land shot on target. While I doubt you'll be using this bow out to 70 meters, it clearly is capable of doing so with my 32-pound limbs. Overall impressions of the Sanlida or Jandao Tangzong bow. Firstly, it is extremely light. I was expecting a somewhat heavier riser, being magnesium alloy or metal riser. People think bulky, heavy, which is what we generally prefer for target shooting. But as an entry-level bow, this is very light. In fact, it's probably lighter than some of the wooden recurves which we use at the club. So for people who want a light bow, and there's a certain demographic which will benefit from this, this is quite good. It is a bow that shoots. I can group at 10 meters, I can shoot at 70 meters, not particularly well, but that's more on me and my form and my setup rather than the bow itself. There are certain limitations will make it hard to shoot competitively, but I don't think this bow was intended for competition shooting. So who is this bow meant for? It's meant for the entry level, which means club level. The price at which you pay for this, especially for a whole kit which has the riser, limb, string and sight, it is very much worth the money. Now, again, this might not be what you're looking for a long-term bow, but for a short-term bow, for a first-time bow, this is not bad. It's very much comparable to other club level metal risers. So as a club, and again, if you think about who would buy this, as a club, this would be quite a good bow. There are bows like this, which clubs might use. If you run a club or you work for a club or a range, this sort of bow is a low investment bow that can be banged around, can be used by multiple people, and it is economical. Again, like most of the club bows we use will cost around the same price as this, but they're wooden recurves. Nothing wrong with that. It is a nice traditional look. This is a full-size target bow for the same price as a wooden beginner bow. So that has a nice value to it. Now the downside is that it doesn't give much pathway for upgrades. You can of course buy other limbs, but you have to buy the same kind of limb, otherwise it wouldn't fit with the bow. It is not an IOF limb, which means that for many people who want to take archery seriously as a sport, you might be buying an IOF compatible riser and then buying limbs from different brands and swapping them in. So it doesn't really give much option for growth. But I don't think this is meant for that kind of archer. This is a sort of bow which you buy once and you try once, and you might keep on using it a few times. But for people who might not be committed to archery, I'm thinking for example youth archers who might want to try and have a go at archery, maybe use sights and stabilizers and get the look and feel of archery using a competitive kind of bow without anywhere near that level of investment. And that's why I think the light riser works well. One of the complaints which people, or one of the challenges people have when starting archery, is that the bow itself is quite heavy. Like the riser alone for a competitive bow might be 800 grams to over a kilogram, and then you have stabilizers and the sight and weights. And a lot of people struggle with this part of the archery. Not so much this part, that's a struggle too, but just lifting the bow up takes some level of conditioning. And a lot of people, people who haven't done much physical work or haven't done much sport, often do complain that this is a little heavy. It's not a very big complaint, I'm saying this is a big deal, but especially young people or very slim frame people, there's an appeal to a very light riser. Again, when you're shooting competitively, you kind of do want the heavier bow. For bare bow, you want a heavier riser with weights. For Olympic recurve, it stabilizes. So at some point, you have to get used to it. But again, for someone who doesn't want to invest their time or money into archery and want a bow they can shoot and maybe put stuff on, this is going to suit that kind of person. Effectively, I think there are two target markets with this bow. Number one is, as we said before, the try archery kind of group, where there might not be an archery store that you can easily access and you don't want to spend money on, say, overseas shipping, or you don't want to spend money on a very good bow. You want the cheapest possible bow that looks like a bow and shoots decently enough for just recreational, backyard, fun target archery. This is quite suitable. If you can get one of these, now often you can buy this on cheap online sites or a local vendor or similar kind of bow, and that's a sort of bow which is suitable if you don't want to go big in any way. Like some people might think that $500 US is a bit too much for a hobby which you're not even sure about. You can go cheap on different kinds of bows. Again, the stereotype would be the Samick Sage kind of bow, which costs about $200, $300, or even less for a cheaper recurve bow. But this is kind of like the target recurve version of that lower end bow. So if that's all you want, then this is, like I said, an economical choice. Is it a great shooting bow? Nah, it's not meant to be a great shooting bow. It's something you can shoot perhaps up to say 30 meters. Beyond that, you probably want to invest in more serious gear, but it's something you can bring out and shoot, and perhaps again something which you can let somebody else try or give to somebody else and let them taste archery without really investing into it. So overall, the bow is surprisingly pleasing. It does look and feel like a target bow, from the grip to the shape to the attachments. So as an entry point and introduction to someone who isn't familiar with archery, it's a very low cost, low investment bow, and I like it for that reason. So if this is something which you've been looking up and you see on the catalog, wondering what it is because it sounds so exotic and foreign, it's basically your club level bow for clubs who are using metal risers. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting and helpful. Thank you all for watching, and hopefully we'll see you next time.